All right, Wildcats, we are back with a third episode of the Wildcat Wire, and I'm joined here today with a family, actually. We have here Ella, ASB historian for 4 years, Jack's Urban Eats employee, and most importantly, my friend for a while now. And with her today is her mom, Mrs. Pagarigan, math teacher here and advisor for a variety of programs, but most importantly, an advisor for all things college related. Before we start, I just want to clarify it's Pagarigan, not Pagarigan, or however you newcomers say it.
Mm-hmm. That's right. Pagarigan.
Not
Pagarian.
Pagarian. People say that.
Yeah. And not Pagarigan.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just to clarify, in case you guys say the title and you don't know how to say it, it's Pagarigan. So on to the juicy stuff that the feral high schoolers are here for. College apps. Big thing coming up. As a teacher and a mom, what's something you hope all students do mentally and physically right now?
Well, one thing I hope students do, and then even my own children, is just try not to be too stressed out about college apps. You know, when you're doing your research, I mean, I hope even if you're just starting or you've been researching for a couple of years, be broad with your choices. There's so many colleges out there, and, you know, be open to new things. And I hope that you are writing your essays, but really thinking about how to make it personal for yourself and not to be too stressed out about how perfect it is. So just make it yourself, and make time just like you would for studying for a test. Make time to for these applications. Set aside, an hour here, an hour there, so that you're not stressed out on, those UC and CSU apps on like November 29 or November 30. So yeah, try not to stress yourself out through the process, but have fun with it.
Would you say like being stressed out about college a lot has caused a lot of misconception around college applications? Yeah.
I do think that a lot of students get worked up about finding that perfect college or that dream school. I would really love if we took away that word dream. I think that there's a college for everybody, and it's not always those top 20 that everyone talks about. And I think that when you find your fit based on like how you feel when you're on that campus, or what kind of clubs and activities are available there for you, that you could, when you see yourself at a college, you'll make it work for you. It'll be fun, and it'll be an amazing experience no matter where you go.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
What are your thoughts on like the new changes with the college application process? There's test optional now, and I will say like social media definitely has amplified the competitive nature. Like you go on social media and people are just laying out all their stats, extracurriculars.
Well, first of all, let me address test optional. I think that it's pretty good. I feel like the SAT for so long has been such a stressful test for everybody, and not everyone's a great test taker. On the other hand, people feel like, but it's something that we could judge a student on. But some people are able to spend hundreds of dollars on test prep. Some people can only do the free Khan Academy, which that wasn't even a thing when I was taking the SAT. So I do like that things are test optional. But I also know that means more people are applying to places that they maybe normally would not have. So I think that's okay. I mean, do you want to talk about how stressed you've been like around SATs?
I mean, I did take the SAT twice, and I did not do very well, like for me, on either. And I did study, like the first one was just like let's like see where I stand, just like no practice or anything. And then I studied a little bit for the second one, and I studied that well, and I was just like, okay, like this isn't necessarily like something that I'm gonna be like putting on my college apps, because like I can't, like it's just like I'm not doing very well on it, and if it's optional, it's like I don't need it. And so I feel like it's like good that it's not like you don't need it.
Yeah. So I really tried to stress, hey, you know what? You'll get into a school that fits both your, the rigor of the academic classes you've taken, and, if you don't want to submit SAT scores, that's fine. Then that won't be a thing that will be for you. That's okay.
Yeah, but I do think that the book that I used was actually really helpful. Like maybe like for someone who is looking for like some ways to study, like the book I did use was definitely really helpful, and I think that it could help people go a long way.
Yeah. What was that book?
Was it the Princeton Review?
Princeton Review. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would you recommend that students take the SAT anyways just to see how it goes, and if they don't like the result, then just go test optional?
Yeah. You know what?
Mhm.
I think too, because I think part of that question was, since the UCs and CSUs don't take the SAT, like if they're completely test blind, I still think that a lot of private schools take it, and a lot of private schools, like in California or even not in California, are so underrated. Like, no, we don't. We only look at the private schools that are the top, but we forget about all these other small private schools that could be such a great fit for our students, that even with a quote unquote low SAT score, you'll probably get in, and they might even give you a lot of merit money. And I think that we kind of overlook that because we're so focused on, top 20, top 50 schools. So
Do you have one in mind that you want to share?
there's so many schools that I absolutely love. I'm just a big fan of small liberal arts colleges. And I feel like the ones in California are still sort of expensive, but places like St. Mary's or like Dominican or, Occidental.
Your favorite.
Yeah, it's like one of my favorites. And even just some other private schools that I'll hear like one or two other students go there, and I'll say, wow, what made you go there? And it'll be for reasons that you don't hear other people wanting to go. Like they'll say, oh, I visited and it was such a good fit for me. Or even if no one, or maybe they had a relative go, so it was on their radar. But I feel like we sort of, maybe because of social media, we tend to just focus on the same schools, the same top UCs, and we forget about some of the other ones. Like, I think it's okay to give Riverside and Merced some love. I think that even Merced, even if it's not a desirable location to some people, that it's a small school, and a lot of people could benefit from a small school. And I love that for a lot of kids. So
On the other side of the spectrum, aside from checking out the smaller schools, I know that a lot of students inevitably every year, every school will be applying to, the top names that you hear.
yeah.
Harvard, Yale, Stanford. Yet, I mean, every year we only have a select few that get to go.
Yep.
What are your thoughts on the top colleges and advice for people out there?
So I like to put things a little bit mathematically, right? I read somewhere that there's over 20,000 high schools in the United States, which means there's about 20,000 valedictorians. And there is not 20,000 spots for each one of these valedictorians in these top schools that are only taking 2,000 or 4,000 students. So to ease the pressure off a lot of students who are just, fighting for those top GPAs or whatever, I really want to say, as much as possible, I hope you still look back on high school and say you enjoyed it. All the things that if you are getting if you have a high GPA and you're in all of these rigorous classes, I hope you're enjoying it. I hope you're having fun. I hope the stuff is interesting to you, because at the end of the day, that's what's going to carry you through college too. And even if you don't get into what you call a top college or what other people say is a top college, doesn't mean you won't be happy or successful somewhere else. They're
very valid. Snaps to that.
Thank you.
Is it getting the snaps?
Yeah. Can I add my own personal story?
Yeah.
Back then people didn't apply to 20 schools. We only applied to maybe 3, maybe 5 schools. It wasn't the same, right? So I applied to 3 schools. I really wanted to go to UC Davis, or I wanted to go to a school in SoCal. And then my other school, we never called them like safety schools or reach schools. And the other school I applied to was Sac State. And at the end of the day, my parents said, UC was too expensive, SoCal was too far, and so you can go to Sac State, which was an hour away from home. And so that was moving away for me. Okay, well, I'll go. I wanted to move away anyways. And who knew? I didn't know. Sac State was not my choice, my third choice. But I made so many amazing friends. I joined clubs and a sorority, and it was just a lot of fun. And I made it fun for myself. And then eventually I met my husband, who now, we've been married for 20 years. So you never really know what's going to come out of these choices, but you make the most of it and it will work out.
Because Sac State was like not your top choice at all.
Not
it was
even.
like, oh, I did not want to go there.
I didn't even want to go there.
It was like Davis.
Right. I really absolutely wanted to go to Davis.
Yeah.
But
it worked.
It worked out. Yeah. And I made a ton of friends, and many of whom I'm still friends with now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's more about like the perspective, like if you go into a college that you didn't want to go to with a bad perspective, then you're not going to want to explore and find new experiences.
Right.
Yeah, I think keeping an open mind throughout the whole process is one of the biggest, like one of the most important parts that not many people will like have. Like not many people are going to have an open mind about what college they would like want to go to.
Yeah. And
It's
some
like-
people haven't even visited these colleges that they swear is their dream school, right? But you've gone on a lot of college tours. How many colleges have you looked at? Just visited?
It's like 20.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some official tours, but the rest we've just walked around.
Yeah, and
just to
like
see.
I thought I was gonna like love Long Beach State, and like I would still go there. Like I would like it's not that big of a deal, but I was like, oh, I don't really like it actually that much. Even though I was like, oh, I would like love to go there, but I never actually went. And then so that's just an example.
What's a college that you visited and you ended up really liking the ambiance of it that you didn't think you would?
Well, I didn't know much about college in general, but like Santa Clara, when I visited, I didn't even know like private schools versus public schools. Like this was sophomore year. But then I visited and I was like, whoa, like, and then that became like my quote unquote dream school for like a good year until I realized I should not have a dream school. And even now I'm like, not any part of me is like still has this like huge desire to only go to Santa Clara. But I think it's such a nice school, especially when I visited, and it's a private school. So it makes sense that it's really nice, but that's definitely one of them.
So there's going to be new experiences in every college. What would you say is advantages that people should think about community college, private schools, public schools? Since I know that while yes, like people are applying to these top colleges for the name, I mean, let's be obvious.
Yeah.
Let's be frank here.
Yeah.
I do think people are gravitated towards like the resources they can also get at certain schools.
Yeah.
So yeah, what do you think are the advantages of certain kinds of schools?
Okay, let's see. I understand like the top schools will have some advantages. They will have maybe doors that will open for you. But I think we still forget that all college in general opens a ton of doors for you. So I think that if definitely go for it. If you want to try to apply to these top schools, you should. If your stats are on and the rigor of your transcript, and if it matches all of that, you should definitely apply and try. But I think what it is the mindset of what if you don't get in? You're still going to be okay. Like having that mindset that there's other options out there that'll be just as good. And that the opportunities that other schools might have for you, you can find those opportunities too at other schools if you look for them and ask around. So I still think that there's a lot of possibilities out there. Even if it's not.
Yeah, and I think that there's not that many people who actually know what they want to do, where they want to go. And so it's like, but then they'll still just be like, oh, well, I want to go to like an Ivy League or something. But then it's like, but then they don't actually know like why. Like, it's not like they're like super academically driven to like want to go there for like the right reasons, if that makes sense. They'll just want to go there just to go there. But then it's like you can have like such better option. Oh, I don't know how to put this. Like my thoughts were like going and then now they're not.
I think you're saying that there's still like other schools will have options for you too to have fun, explore.
Would you say it's easier to do that at community college where now it's free?
Oh yeah, that is a good thing too because I mean when I went to community college for a little bit too because I had to go back home and go to community college, it wasn't free, but now that it is, it is a good thing, right? The only thing is that you just have to really be focused and make sure you understand all of the transfer rules so that you can transfer to where you want to go, and it could be academically a good fit for you because I think that a lot of people tend to move away from home but they're not even ready. So not just that, but then financially too. I think we ignore the financial aspect of college and people think, well, I'll just figure it out later. And then 4 years later, you're, super in debt, like over $100,000 or something like that. And I think that's also really stressful. So that's something that we tend to forget. Like, okay, so as a parent, I hope that our students are also talking to their families and parents about how are we going to pay for this? What is our plan? And I think that we can't just say, well, yeah, I'm going to go away for your school. It doesn't matter. I can go to Stanford and it doesn't matter what it costs. And I think that it does. And, when you look at the student loan debt, it's stressful. It can be stressful.
And it's not talked about by adults. Like there's many adults who are still in college debt in their like, even when they already have their kids and stuff, but it's not talked about. So no one knows that. So it's just assumed that like people have figured it all out and, oh, that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to figure it out. But like, that doesn't really mean that people actually have it figured out and they're still probably in debt. So
would you say that's a misconception that a lot of people think they can rely on scholarships? And yeah,
I do. And I think that people rely on, well, assuming that there will be scholarships and they'll just find them eventually, or I can take out student loans and I'll be able to pay for it. But nobody knows, well, what's going to happen when, 4 years from now, if you are in like $80,000 of debt, how will you pay for that monthly payment? Is the job that you are going to have going to be enough to cover that plus living expenses, or how are you going to do that? So it's really important to not just look at 1 year from now, but look at, 4 or 5 years from now, because, people my age are still in debt from their college years. And I can't imagine, how you can kind of be in that position. It must be so stressful to have your own student loan debt and then try to put your own kid through college. So yeah, I think that's something like students and parents should have conversations about.
Yeah, I think like in Ella and our year, it's gonna be like hundreds of thousands. I mean, it already kind of is, but definitely it's gonna get up there.
Yeah. A CSU is anywhere from $25,000 to $29,000 a year.
They just raised it, didn't they?
Right.
Yeah.
And then UCs are closer to $40,000 a year. Do that math and see just to be realistic.
So, in your opinion, why do you think most people pay for that tuition at a private school?
Okay, so private schools, I think that, are upwards more of like $70,000 a year, right? But they are also known to give more money based on like GPA.
And that's something people don't know either.
And I think a lot of people don't know that. So they don't look into the schools that will actually give you money based on your GPA or even your just anything that you like, or even your major. So I think that we should do a little bit more research on schools out there that will give money, or even outside of California if we're willing to go out of state. There's so many schools, and I think we kind of overlook that because we're just so focused on the same schools. that everyone else is applying to.
Because some private schools will give a lot of money, but people are like, oh, I'm not going to apply to private schools because they're too expensive. But it's like they might not be, and they might be the same price as like a CSU or a UC. Especially if it's a private school that you actually are interested in, then I don't think you should not apply. Like you should, if you can.
Yep. Also, a lot of private schools have zero application fee, so why not? Yeah.
So when researching colleges, make sure you check out like price and whether or not they give these generous scholarships. And is there any other factor you think people should consider? Or is it mainly just based on how you think you're going to fit in that college?
I think that's part of it too. And also to know that if a college accepts you or rejects you, right, to not take that personally for the rejection, right? Every school has what's called institutional priorities. So a lot of schools, they'll say, well, we need more of this type of student, or we need more of this major, or we need more like band members or football players or something like that. And so if you get rejected, it's not just because they didn't like you or something on
your stats weren't high enough.
Right, or your stats weren't high enough, or that you weren't good enough. It's just that for that particular class, you just may not have fit what they needed in that year. So it's just that is something that I think that's a misconception. I think that people don't understand that schools are they're building a class and they're trying to find a little bit of this, a little bit of that, a little bit of this. And so if everyone has the same stats, you're not all going to get in, and that's okay. But there will be a school that does want, what you have. And I feel like we need to seek those schools out.
Yeah. And be able to accept that too.
Yeah. With students, working on their college apps, I'm sure you as a teacher have gotten requests to do letters of recommendations. And what advice do you have for students who are still wondering what teacher to ask?
Okay, so number one, I would definitely choose a teacher who you have some kind of relationship with, like that you have like if you were in their class, did you talk in their class? Did you participate? Does that teacher know you besides your grades? So that's an important thing. Sometimes we focus on, well, I want to be a bio major in college, so I guess I should pick my bio teacher or a science teacher. And that should be part of the consideration too. But I know that for me, students who approach me for a letter of rec are usually students who know me personally, like they just weren't like the quiet kid in my class who didn't do anything but just do their homework. So definitely, if you're thinking about that sophomore, junior year, find a teacher that you have a good relationship with. And also, I guess it's easier these days because it's really mostly the private schools that are looking for letters of rec, or if you're doing a scholarship. So UCs don't ask for that anymore, right? I don't think so. Definitely not CSUs. So
they do not ask.
Right.
No.
So it's really just the private schools, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So if you're a sophomore or a junior listening, then you should definitely think about what teacher you're going to ask now. I wouldn't wait.
Yeah.
But yeah, because then it also, if you actually have a relationship with your teacher, it can help your teacher a lot in writing a good letter of rec because they'll know more about you and more to say.
Yep. Just to clarify on what you said about the student who doesn't really participate, would you say you have written or you've seen good students that are more on the introverted side? You can still write a pretty nice letter of rec for them, their personal qualities and stuff.
Yes, absolutely. So even my quiet students, or introverted students, I can definitely write a letter of rec. It's just easier when,
they're actively engaging in the class.
Yeah, or if I know them beyond just their school, right? Like if I know they're involved in cheer or some other club or sport, I can also include that if I know. That's why I try to go to a lot of events and see my students outside of their academic element, because I like to get to know them outside of just the classroom.
Yeah, and going off of that, what do you specifically consider when writing a student's letter of rec? Since I know that some teachers may reflect on how well they did in their class, and other students may focus on that student's personal qualities and goals that they might have that they really admire.
Yeah, you know what? I usually try to focus on their work ethic in class and build on that. So their character. I usually try to include like a mini story about something they did in my class or something that struck me personally about them. So I'll try to include that. And again, that's why it's easier to do a letter of rec for some if you know that student or they really know you. And so that's what I focus on. I do ask my students, well, what do you think you plan to major in? And, what else have you done outside of school? And I'll try to incorporate that. But usually I try to go based on my personal knowledge of that student.
Yeah, because they'll also send the paper that's like says you give it to the teacher you want to write a letter of rec for you, and it's just like a list of like activities you've done, like your stats and like extracurriculars, just for them to get a better feel in case it's like they don't already know.
Yeah.
But
right, that form that's on the Franklin website.
Yeah,
letter of rec form.
Yeah, because I didn't know that you use that.
Yeah, true.
Do you have a specific anecdote of a student that you wrote a really good letter of rec from, and to this day you still think about their impact?
Okay, yes, for sure. I recently wrote one, and
no, I like
this
story.
student. I wrote two last year that really stand out to me. So this student, I guess I won't name names, but this student helped. We did that Powder Puff rally, and there were a couple students who helped with the staff performance at the Powder Puff rally, and that was something that I had never done before, and I was super nervous. And so this student really helped me build my confidence in performing at the rally. And not only did she do that, she was also my student the year before, and she did really great in my math class, and she was always helpful with other students. And so I remembered that. And then also she sort of took Ella under her wing a couple years ago when we just came back from distance learning and you were both in leadership together. And then she made sure that you were like felt comfortable, or you were like just trying to like adapt to being back in school and you guys were in leadership together. And that I really remembered that, and I definitely wrote about that in my letter of rec. And that was a really easy letter of rec to make because that student stood out to me, not just in my classroom but personally too. So that's what I wrote about.
What about the other student you mentioned too?
The other student, let me go back. Let me think about a couple of years ago.
Online.
Yeah. Oh, I've written some like that. It was really hard. I had to write a couple of letter recs for students when we were in distance learning too. And I had to write about just a relationship that I had to build with them online, but the things that struck out for me from this student, even though other students, may not have been talking as much, or how this student was able to stay engaged and still be successful, even though, Zoom learning was really challenging for everybody. So, yep.
So, final advice. If there's one thing you'd like the listener to take from this, or anyone who's writing their college app, or an underclassman who's already ready, I guess, what would you say that singular piece of advice would be?
Okay. For underclassmen, I would say to just make sure that anything you do in high school is something you're interested in. Have fun. If you like band, be in band. Don't worry about if that looks good on college transcripts or not. If you have a passion, like you want to do something like a podcast, do that. Do something you're thoroughly interested in, and if you know it's going to help people, great. If you have a true passion, it'll come out naturally, and it doesn't have to be forced. And then that, you also have to have faith that you will end up where you're meant to be. And if you don't think you're meant to be somewhere, you can make it your own, and you will have fun and enjoy a college no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
There will always be something that will give you joy no matter where you are. So I really think that students should keep that in mind, so they're not focused on only if I get into this school will I be happy. That's not true. You can be happy anywhere. You just have to keep that in mind.
Yeah, you have to be open to that idea that you're going to be happy anywhere, and it will work out. And even if you don't know where you want to go, what you want to do now, like, you can always figure it out, and it'll still work out.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And Ella, as a senior applying to college right now, senior in high school, what are some reflections you have in your 4 years of high school, or just something that has struck you while working on college apps?
I don't know. Okay. I don't know if this necessarily is like exactly what you're asking, but I know that for a while, I never knew what I wanted to do at all. And even right now, I plan to go into college as a sociology major or a communications major. But only recently did I realize that like the study of human behavior or societal behavior was like interesting to me. I only like kind of realized that recently. And before that, I was like, oh, I'll just go into business because I like to work like with people to like in that business like environment. But then I was like, I don't think that's something I would want to do. Like for me, I think it actually might be boring. And even though I'm going in as sociology, like I don't know if that's actually going to work out for me, but in the back of my mind, it's always like, that's okay. Like you're still going to figure it out.
Yeah, that's all that matters.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's the biggest thing I've learned also, because that's what my mom tells me all the time is like, it's going to work out. And like, if you keep an open mind about it, I think that's super important. But yeah. And also I just like, there's always times where you're going to be like, oh, I feel like I'm not doing enough, or like, oh, I feel like I should have taken like more APs. But like you are where you are for a reason. And like, if you didn't actually feel ready to take another extra AP, especially if it's for a class that you didn't even like have a passion for at all, like it's okay. Like you're going to be fine. And you made those decisions for a reason. You can't like have all these regrets either. Mm-hmm. Like same thing goes for having a dream school. Like you can't, if you get rejected, like you can't have that dwell on you too much. That's definitely like a work in progress, that mindset of like keeping an open mind. So I think throughout the past few months, like in this like college journey, because I started thinking about college like end of sophomore year ish, is to just like work on that like mindset of it'll be okay. Like, and I don't have to kill myself too.
Yes, guys, don't kill yourself.
No,
over
like,
this.
Don't
kill yourself over 350 characters.
Yeah. You don't have to kill yourself in your like mental being just to get into like colleges. Just like you're gonna be fine. So I think that's such a big part.
Yeah. And I feel like that's like such a growing process because, maybe a year or 2 years ago, that's not exactly how you were. You had, and you sort of have to ease you out of like, don't be too stressed. Just take what you want,
Yeah.
And
even though like I will still be stressed out, like it's like I always know that like it's still gonna work out. And even for me personally, like I didn't take like a huge amount of APs. I think I took like I'll share. I took like only 3.
Mm-hmm.
4?
Yep, 3 or 4.
4, yeah. And they were all ones that I knew were either going to be helpful. I knew I was going to have like the resources I needed. I heard good things about the class, and it wasn't just like for me personally, I knew I wasn't going to take like AP histories because that's not my thing. And that's okay. and I know I'm still gonna be fine. So we talk about this all the time.
We do.
So it's like hard to like think about it because it's like I every day we probably like not every day, but
Every day we have some kind of college thought.
conversation.
Yeah, we
Like-
thought about, should we go visit some more colleges or fun? It's just become like a game now.
Yeah.
Honestly, I just love touring colleges just for the
That's
pretty campuses. But let's see, final thoughts. Have fun in the application process and try not to spend too many hours on things. Be proud of any application any essay that you write. Make sure it's you, true and authentic, without worrying about who's going to read this and how do I make it so that somebody will accept me. So just have at least, even if it's not exactly fun. I don't think applications are necessarily fun, but don't stress yourself out too much over it. Yeah, and don't worry about what happens in the end. It will work out.
Okay, you heard it here, guys. Hopefully this helped answer any questions you may have about college, and that concludes this episode. As usual, thank you to our producer Allison, videographer Joseph, and advisor Mrs. Toyama for making each episode happen. Check out our other episodes and social media and let us know what you'd like to see next. Peace out, Wildcats.
Bye,
Bye guys.
All right, we're good.